why they always criticize us. They do not understand people's sufferings. I'll speak again later. Chairman. Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, I want to talk about Head 82, building safety. So 3 years ago, the Buildings Department started to clamp down on subdivided flats and industrial buildings. 72 removal orders have been issued. Cessation of works notices have been issued. And the non-compliance situation is very serious, and the fines imposed on owners are not enough to achieve a deterrent effect. According to the Director of Audit's report, the Buildings Department has not followed up on removal orders issued effectively. The government really knows how to bully the tenants. But do you know that the culprits are not the tenants, but the owners of subdivided flats? They made illegal alterations to flats. They operate subdivided flats. Of course, you may say that tenants are partly to blame because they know that the subdivided flats are illegal, and still they've decided to rent the flats. But then the Buildings Department shouldn't have adopted double standards. It shouldn't have chosen to bully only the tenants, but not the owners. In 2014-15, Buildings Department got $1.2 billion, and in 2011-2012, 830 million only. In other words, up 50%. But then concerning the number of UBWs handled, in recent years, the average annual figure is only 17,000. In 2010 to 2011 or before that, on the average, 40,000 UBWs were dealt with. So the Buildings Department is being given more and more money, but is doing less and less. The PAC held a hearing in relation to the Director of Audit's report. The Secretary for Development and the Director were present at the hearing. They were asked to explain why the Buildings Department achieved so little progress in respect of the demolition of UBWs. And I think you can see, I understand why I proposed to cut Paul Chan's salary. Paul Chan said that he agreed that there was room for improvement concerning the Buildings Department's work against UBWs. And I think that's nonsense, because for all work there is room for improvement. So it's nonsense uttered by an incapable person. And he said that wherever practicable, the Director of Audit's recommendations will be implemented. So this is such remarks extremely bureaucratic. And such remarks are meaningless. And then he tries to shift the blame on others. He said that members of the public's awareness about UBWs was increased because of the Wai building collapse incident. As a result, there were many public reports, more public reports, and as a result, the workload of the Buildings Department increased very substantially. Of course, we do not want to see accidents, but then the government departments started to take action only when there was an accident and many people died and many were injured. And of course, the public were worried, and as a result, they made more complaints, they made more inquiries. So the Development Bureau and the Buildings Department did not do enough to educate the public. The accident serves to educate the public. And now you are saying that the number of cases reported to the Buildings Department has risen very, very substantially because of increased awareness in the wake of the accident. And so the Buildings Department has to adopt a risk-based approach and has to set its priorities. So in other words, if there is no immediate or imminent danger, the Buildings Department will not take action against those UBWs. So I think you have to make sure that your UBWs are large, and so they will not cause imminent danger. Then it was said that over 80,000 removal orders were issued, and over 200,000 UBWs were identified, and 12,000 prosecutions were taken. And all these figures show, according to Paul Chan, that the Business Department has been trying very hard to take enforcement action. I do not agree. At the Special Finance Committee meeting, I asked a similar question. And I was told that more was done in respect of prosecution and enforcement. And they told me that, in fact, the UBWs identified a decade before were being demolished. So how can the British Department can only catch up or can only try to catch up, but it won't be able to do so. And then, according to Mr. Hui, the special funding was no longer given to the Business Department 4 years ago. Some NCSC staff have already left, and the Buildings Department has encountered great difficulties in investigating and also it has to deal with subdivided flats, and also after the accident, the Business Department had to send people to inspect old buildings, and because of the extra workload, fewer UBWs were demolished. Mr. Hui also said that between 2001 and 2011, on the average 40,000 UBWs were demolished, and by 2011, all UBWs posing imminent danger have been dealt with. And then $36 million was used to carry out a spot check or stock ticket exercise rather, under 39 consultancies. But then in October last year, there were LSOs which did not go ahead, and they involved 1,128 buildings. And in one LSO, only 67% of the 298 buildings identified were dealt with. In the Special Finance Committee meeting, I asked Mr. Paul Chan whether the Buildings Department had enough people. I said that if the answer was no, he should ask for more money and more people. And concerning the in 2013, there was industrial action taken by the technical staff of the Buildings Department. At that time, I went to the Buildings Department and it was in Prince Edward. I was trying to complain about the UBW on the peak, and I saw many slogans there put up by the technical staff. They said that the workload was extremely heavy, and when they started work, they didn't know when they could go home after work. So the staff decided to take industrial action because they really could not tolerate the situation anymore. And they said that they would take industrial action for 1 hour during lunch hour to show their discontent. The surveying officers were responsible for taking prosecution action against owners and contractors, and some staff said that before restructuring, they worked in 5-member teams. They had to carry out pay site visits. They had to write reports when they returned to the office. So many of them had to work 2 extra hours every day. Some had to work even on Saturdays. But then after restructuring, the number of members in each team was reduced from 5 to 3 or even 2. So district squads are only or have become only 2 team squads. And they also complained to the department that their consultants did their work in a half-hearted manner. The information collected was full of errors, and as a result, the technical staff had to do a lot of verification and checking. In fact, this problem has still not been solved within the buildings department. Paul Chan said that the department would try to recruit more people, but Paul Chan did not ask for a lot of extra resources this time. And then let me say something about subdivided flats. According to the ICESCR, each person should be entitled to decent accommodation.
In 2014, this report published by the UN on decent housing. The Committee on IPCCSR had a very detailed definition of decent housing. The convention is against forcibly driving people away from their home on a temporary or permanent basis without any legal form or other form of protection. This is a forced eviction, and forced eviction would proportionately affect the poor and interfere with their rights. Hong Kong is a member state, is a party to the ICCPR, so the administration should give an account of the reason clearance. Of course, this problem has been a long-standing one, and it is not just the responsibility of the BD, because property prices are ever rising, and the wages of grassroots can never catch up with property prices. Nobody likes to live in SDU. Even if they do, they would like to live in decent and legal and safe SDUs, but people won't do it if they have other options. So in clearing SDUs, the administration must have a comprehensive set of policies to rehouse those tenants. Please do not think that by evicting them, the problem is resolved. I think the government adopts the same stance in dealing with most social issues. If they can ignore it, they choose to ignore it. If they do tackle the problem, well, they don't really tackle the problem, but they tackle the people instead. So instead of tackling the problem these people face, they tackle the people with these problems. The THB, Anthony Cheung, the buildings department, they all have a part to play in the recent incident. Please do not wait until we have more tragedies before the administration can be forced into action to improve or safeguard the lives and properties of residents. I'd like to take this opportunity to respond to what Mr. Kwok said yesterday. He said he was against all these amendments to cut expenses. He said that by so doing, we would make it impossible for projects to be completed, and then put the blame on officials, and then cut the officials' salary. Now, please, Mr. Kwok, please tell us for sure what are the projects that have suffered slippage as a result of filibustering? What are the projects with cost overrun that are a result of filibustering? Well, yesterday we talked about the West Island Line, the XRL Hong Kong section, SIL Kowloon Link, Sha Tin Central Link, and expansion of the Admiralty Station. All these projects are not completed on schedule. Was it due to our obstruction in funding approval, leading to cost overrun and slippage? For those who have used these excuses to criticize us and to criticize filibustering, please look at these matters carefully. These cost overruns and slippage has nothing to do with our putting up resistance in this council. Dr. An Jiang. Mr. Deputy. When it comes to housing, yes, I also have things that I don't like, so I must set up and say something about this. When I first assumed office, I discussed with relevant departments, including the CSB and the Development Bureau. I asked them, do you know that there are some civil service cooperative scheme with over 20,000 buildings in the urban areas? So you would like to identify sites for housing. Why can't you develop these sites? And I was told that it was a very complicated matter. And I asked how complicated it was. He said that for some of them, land premium was not yet paid up, and therefore development could not go ahead. And I said, well, then they should pay the premium. And then I tried to gain a better understanding of this matter with some members of the public. There are not really 20,000, 200 odd old buildings are built by civil servants cooperative schemes. They were a form of civil service benefits. Civil servants could buy these flats at a discounted price and at 1/3 of the premium. And the civil servants said that no, it was not really at 1/3, but the properties were sold, or the premium was given a 50% discount, and there was nothing in the lease to say that when these buildings are redeveloped or sold, the premium must be paid back to the government. Well, people or these old civil servants are really debtors. They borrowed money from the administration. The administration may say that, well, it's just a form of benefit, but these old civil servants have to pay back the debts. These retired civil servants are all elderly persons, some in their 90s already. But most of these buildings are tenement buildings with 4 to 5 stories, and they cannot walk up the stairs anymore. Dr. An Jiang, may I remind you that this is a debate on the appropriation bill, not on housing policy. Please come back to the appropriation bill. Yes, this is relevant to the appropriation bill because according to the government, the land was provided at a discounted premium. Now you just tell us whether you oppose their amendments and give us the justifications for your objection. All right. Mr. Deputy, thank you for your coaching. Thank you for your instruction. Mr. Chen Chi-chuen wants to cut the provisions for the Development Bureau. I am against this. Although they haven't done a good job as far as the civil servants housing cooperative scheme was concerned. But let's not cut their salary first. About 2 years ago, many flat owners of these buildings came to the council to tell us their situation, and the Development Bureau have been talking with the CSB to see how they can help these people. I think a meeting will be convened soon, and I hope that the Development Bureau can come up with something. Please don't tell us that they have come up with nothing after 2 years of thinking. If so, I may support Mr. Chang Chi-chuen's proposal to cut the salary. But if they do have a solution, of course, I hope that the provision for the bill will not be cut as proposed by Mr. Chang Chi-chuen. Many of the elderly owners cannot walk up and down the staircases anymore. They're in their 90s, and every time they have to be carried downstairs to see a doctor, and they're not allowed to sell their flats, they're not allowed to rent their flats to other people. This is very strange. So the matter is hanging in middle air. This is very strange. The government should think of a way to resolve this problem. This is what a government should do. The government should not be bureaucratic. Even if they cannot address this problem, they should tell the people concerned to get their understanding. Although I don't really want to cut the Development Bureau's staff's salary, I hope that next year they can improve. Thank you. Mr. Leung Yiu-chung. Mr. Deputy. I'm grateful to members who are proposing to cut the pay of some of the housing-related officials. I think they have advanced very good arguments with good justifications and good examples and information to tell us why these officials are not performing satisfactorily and why their pay should be cut. When it comes to public and private housing development, our officials seem helpless. By calling them helpless, this is already an understatement. In fact, they cannot handle such issues fairly. The public housing issue is very serious now. These officials formulated the policies. It is very reasonable to cut their pay because the policies they formulated are inappropriate and ineffective in resolving social issues. Now, I'd like to point out the defects in their policies. First, public housing. Public housing for singletons. There is a point system for singletons. It is very unfair and also discriminatory. And the situation is even worse for young people. They belittle and smear young people, saying that they are not willing to work and they are just queuing up for public housing. Because at any rate, you have to join the waiting list and wait for a very long time, at least over 3 years, in order to be allocated a flat. Although the government claims that on average they have to wait for about 3 years, this is not true. So is it possible for a young man to be unemployed for 3 years just to wait for a flat to be allocated? they are just smearing young people, is used as a defense or excuse to cover their inability to provide sufficient units. This is shameful. As for the point system has been amended so many times. As a result, young people who were further up the queue have been moved to a lower position. So for these young people, they have to wait for at least 10 years before they can be allocated a flat. So every year, the administration set aside 2,000 units for those 100,000 young people. So how long do they have to wait? This is such a poor policy. Right, singletons have to wait for a long time for a flat. And for TPS and HOS and also other forms of subsidized housing, the policies are outrageous. Now, they say if you have lived in such flats for more than 5 years, then you can just pay a premium and sell it in the private market.
So you're encouraging speculation in the private market. So it's not really making good use of government resources. We have brought that up time and again. We have asked the administration whether such units that can be sold can only be sold back to the government instead of to individuals in the private market. You just ignore us. You just allow them to continue to sell those units in the private market. So have you seen how high property prices have become these days? All right, an average unit can easily cost more than $4 million. Mr. Lang, Yiu-chung, I have to remind you that we are having a budget debate, so it's not about the housing policy. So can you get back to the debate on our budget? Well, as I said, well, these policies have been formulated by officials, and today, when you look at the amendment proposals by members to slash their pay, I think that has to do with their performance, and that's because they have not formulated their policies properly. That's why I'm talking about the shortcomings of their policies. So please allow me to set out my reasons. Other than the policy on public rental housing that has been flawed because they allow them to sell the units in a private market. Another problem is the SDU. It's most unfortunate because for residents going into SDUs, they are already the unfortunate group because they all understand that these are unlawful units. In particular, SDUs in industrial buildings are grossly against the law. And there are also hygiene problems and other building safety problems. If they had a choice, they would not have preferred to go into such units, but then they have no alternative. That's why they have been forced into such unlawful SDUs, which involved a lot of UBWs. All right, in the name of safety, the administration is trying to demolish these UBWs. All right, that's fine. You can go in and remove these UBWs. But what about other support facilities and measures to help them solve their housing problem? If you remove them, then what can they do? The administration has done nothing at all. They have not been able to come up with any measures to help these residents of SDUs. Where should they go to? Well, they have only got one choice. That is, if you're not eligible for public rental housing, then you will have to go into Po-tin Estate in Tuen Mun. That is a temporary shelter for an entire family to go into such a temporary shelter. How can that be a solution? And also, if you look at their accommodation, all right, they have to stay close to their workplace or their schools. So if you force them to go into Tuen Mun, what is going to happen? But then the administration just ignore all the problems and force them to go into Tuen Mun. What other choices do they have? No, none at all. except that they would move from one illegal SDU in one industrial building to another industrial building. But then, again, they will have to go into another SDU, and when you demolish the SDU in that particular building, then they will have to go to a third one. And what's more is that the unscrupulous landlords know that these UBWs will be removed, and therefore they will have to increase the rents. Because I've talked to someone who helps these SDU residents, and he told me that the rents for these SDUs in industrial buildings have doubled or even more. So what can they do? Well, with this policy, well, in the name of it, you say that you try to ensure building safety, but in the end, they have been rendered homeless. They have been displaced. So where can they go to? So these are the policies formulated by the officials, and they've totally ignored the suffering of the public. Paul Chan even came out to say that, no, we are not going to allow them to go into chalet, because that shelter is for those suffering from natural disasters. Yes, that's true. Yes, we have to reserve some places for those victims of natural disasters. But now we have a vivid problem here. So what are we going to do? Well, he just cannot be bothered. So are they still doing their jobs? Are they still competent? And how are we going to resolve these problems? Well, they cannot be bothered. So these residents have become homeless, and they have no idea as to where they can turn to or where they can go. This is really sad. It's not just the problem of these SDUs. Another problem is the UBWs. Other UBWs have got similar situations. Well, I've dealt with the rooftop structures at 13th Street in Hong Kong, and again, they have similar problems. So I hope that the Bureau Director or government officials can talk to these residents. That is, if you were to demolish their rooftop structures, there should be appropriate assistance to help them solve their housing problems. But then the officials told us that, well, nothing can be done about it. We can only have one arrangement, and there is no further negotiation, no further talk. Chairman, these officials only execute the policies. They never can be bothered about the livelihood problems of these residents. And from the former chief executive to the incumbent chief executive, they have repeatedly said that policy-wise, they'd like to have people-based policies. But then when you look at these incidents, where has this idea gone? How have they applied this initiative or this concept? Is it that they have failed in executing the policy with people in their mind, and if they are not able to do so, then they have actually violated the rationale behind the government's policies? So should they still get paid if they have failed their job? On housing problems, another area that we are most unhappy about is the home ownership scheme, or I mean the property prices have been escalating, resulting in the fact that many people cannot afford to buy their own home, and many young people have been grumbling about this, and they question how they can start their own homes and raise their own families without having to rely on their parents to help them buy their homes. Indeed, that's very true, because if you look at the current property market, Well, for units cost at below $4 million, there aren't that many. There are just a handful. And therefore, for a young couple trying to buy their own home, how can they afford it? Not even the down payment would be affordable. So how can they afford the mortgage payment? The prices are so high, and yet with the cooling measures in place, property prices still kept rising. What else can the government do to suppress property prices? So they have done nothing at all, absolutely nothing. Still, they repeatedly said that, well, in our generation, it's not possible for us to immediately buy a flat shortly after graduation. So why don't you just work for a few more years and then save money before you buy a flat? Chairman, I think this perspective appears to be right, but then they have ignored one problem. That is, well, even if I work hard, would I still have enough money to buy a flat? And the problem is, with ever-rising property prices, is a very serious problem. So you're not attempting to resolve this problem, and yet, on the other hand, you are calling upon these people and ask them to wait till later before they buy a flat. So you've actually shifted the problem. You have not looked at the nature of the problem. You have not looked at the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter is rising property prices. It has nothing to do with whether the young people should try to buy their flat right away. But then there are people who try to buy a flat and yet they cannot afford it. This is the problem. It's not just about buying properties that are problematic. Even rentals have gone way too high, because many people know that many people are not able to afford to buy their homes, and that's why they can only rent a flat. And the administration, well, we have asked the administration to introduce rent control, but then the administration simply ignores our request, because they say that with rent control, then many landlords would not have the incentive to let out their flats. Your time is up. Albert Chan. Thank you, Chairman. Originally, I would have wanted to continue with what I had just said about waste disposal and also the mistakes committed by the ENB, and then I'd like to cite some examples in the US and UK and so on, and how they managed to do remarkable public-private schemes. But then when I read the news just now, I heard 689 blowing his own trumpet, saying that this year, if you look at the number of flats in the private property market, is a record high. That's why I have to immediately comment on this. So it has to do with the Development Bureau. The reason why I'm so outraged, and the reason why I have to set aside my criticism against the ENB, so that I can first comment on the remarks made by 689. I think he's trying to run Hong Kong with lies, and he's trying to distort everything so that he claims all the credit and then the blame would be on others. So I think this mode of governance has to be pointed out in this council in order to set the record straight. Well, the Development Bureau, if it does not come out to clarify the situation, then precisely it is supporting our Amendment 335, that is to slash the pay of the Bureau Director by cutting $3.58 million a year. Why are the two related? Because C.Y. Leung was making such comments, but then when it comes to housing supply and the work of the Development Bureau, I think the two are very closely related. What has C.Y. Leung said, Chairman? Well, he said that the Rating and Valuation Department expected that in 2016, if you look at the number of flats in the private market, there would be more than 20,000 when compared to 2014-15. It would be 71.2% higher than the 11,720 units per year on average. So that would be somewhat higher than by some 28% when compared to 2013-14. I'm grateful to the Development Bureau for his hard work, and he said that in the past 10 years, because of various reasons in terms of supply in the private market is on the low side, and also in recent years because of the low liquidity cost, that's why mortgage payment has been on the low side. That's why property prices have been rising. That's why in order to solve the problem, the only solution is to increase supply. All right, Mr. Deputy, I think these remarks are just outrageous. Because number one, in the past 10 years, for one reason or another, part of the reason was the responsibility of 689, because of the failure of 689, and of course the Development Bureau also made some wrong decisions, because he used to be the convener of EXCO, and some decisions were taken by EXCO, including the 9 initiatives introduced by Michael Soon. In fact, he was the culprit. He was behind all these. He was the policy formulator. That's why it shows how despicable 689 is. So this also shows the kind of attitude that he has adopted. And also, for some 20,000 units that will be completed this year, well, what has that got to do with the work of 689 and the Development Bureau? In 2016, as to how many flats can be completed, it was decided 4 years ago.
The number of units to be completed cannot be dictated by 689. So the undersupply is attributed to Donald Tsang and Michael Soon. They were tunnel visioned and they disregarded the housing needs. With regard to 689, he claimed credit for everything, including the $2 transport concession for the elderly. It was decided by Donald Tsang. The new high in production, he is expressing gratitude to the Development Bureau. I think we have to set the record straight. The pro-government newspapers will be eulogizing 689 tomorrow. If you look at the statistics, now he's talking about the private sector supply. Next year, 2016, he anticipated there will be 20,000. 10 years ago, 04, 05, it was 26,000. 03, 04, 26,400. So he talked about the figure, the 0203, 31,000. The low production figures were caused by planning errors. 689 is repeating the same errors. I kept saying that 689 said that there are numerous ways to identify land. I've got to be careful with my words. I was very, very close to slipping into some undesirable diction. 689 doesn't have any common sense. It doesn't have any wisdom to deal with the issue. Since 1970s, or in fact, starting from the 1960s, Hong Kong's success was achieved through the development of new towns. Now he is identifying land. I think he's grabbing land here and there, and this is causing a lot of disputes. They are seizing land from the Baptist University for 800 units, and that was detrimental to the Baptist University's plan to build Chinese medicine hospital. It would be like what happened during the Cultural Revolution, or even worse, the Great Leap Forward. In order to boost the steel production figures, they were collecting the cooking woks and all the iron and steel and put them all into the melting pot in order to boost the figure of steel production. This is precisely the mindset of the Communist Party. So when it comes to land identification, over the past 30, 40 years, the best way was new town development. The government might argue that we have seen all these arguments over the NT new town. Now, this is wrong. If you ask the people of Hong Kong to find land the size of Tin Shui Wai or Ma On Shan, whether through farmland development or reclamation, if it is for the sake of Hong Kong, people might still have contra views. But if you can do a good job in rehousing, I kept saying that we should do rehousing first before development. The disputes stem from the fact that people don't have the focused idea where they're going to be rehoused, and there will be a fighting tooth and nail against it. But if you settle the rehousing, if you have the farmland, the houses, they get recompensed. If the compensation package is sensible and reasonable, if there is a sensible rehousing timetable, the people of Hong Kong are pragmatic. They would not selfishly deprive people or the government of the opportunity to develop or redevelop. I think the whole problem lies with the absurd compensation and the lack of clarity and certainty regarding rehousing. And people get a perception that the land developed will benefit to the tycoons. Now, when the NENT was developed, there was not a lot of criticism, but when 689 intervened, people get the perception that it's going to be turned into a back garden for the tycoons across the border. So I don't think you should be living in your own cocoon and be divorced from the public. Now, this new high production, new high, has got nothing to do with 689. The undersupply was the responsibility of Donald Tsang. On the one hand, you talked about the new production high. Why don't you talk about the rental housing? The supply of PRH would also have a bearing on the public. You merely talked about the private housing production in 2016. What about the PRH? I'm asking my assistant to get hold of the information. The increase in private sector production has some land been taken away from PRH production. Yuen Long Estate has been demolished, but a lot of land is redeveloped not into PRH. The same can be said about North Point Estate. The private sector development has taken away a lot of the land resources for the PRH. The shortfall of PRH is due to the fact that a lot of the good, precious land has been taken over for private sector development. Over the past 3-4 decades, the PRH housing wasn't relegated to secondary importance. There was a lot of land on the waterfront that was developed into PRH. But over the past couple of years, it has changed. A lot of the prime land where the PRH is sitting on would be turned into luxurious flats. There are people who are supporting the developers, and they claim that they have to improve the environment, and they cannot have rental housing developed there, and the land would be converted into luxurious housing. And if PRH is developed there, then people might say that this is causing embarrassment to the district. Now, when the councillors are canvassing votes, they are prepared to do anything for the tenants. But when it comes to redevelopment, they will be biased in favor of the developers. Now, I kept saying that people kept saying that people will pay for what they did at the poll. If the constitutional reform is voted down, I think we have to see what's going to happen. I request a quorum call under 17.3.
梁國雄議員，我哋仲係開緊會。
Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, we are still in the course of a meeting.
Wai-yip 議員
Mr. Albert Chan, Chairman, I was talking about North Point Estate and Yunong Estate. In fact, Valley Road Estate, Homentin Estate, Kwok-hung Estate. The government always has its eyes on quality PRH sites, and I believe next year there won't be too many PRH flats completed, Chairman. We concerning private sector production, say if the site is made available to a developer in 2015, the flats won't be completed till, say, 2019. But then developers may, because of various reasons, drag their feet and cause a delay for 1 or 2 years. And so next year or in 2017, developers may decide to complete the flats for sale next year in 2016 because property prices are high. But then we're not too optimistic for 2017, 2018. 2012, only 14,000 approved. 2013, 9,000. 2014, only 11,000 flats approved. And so in 2017 or 2018, there won't be too many new flats in the private sector that will be completed. It's about 6:30 p.m. May I ask whether members who haven't spoken in this debate would like to speak in this debate?
前兩項嘅辯論呢都有。
In the last two debates, there were members who complained that they didn't have sufficient time to speak, and they had spent a lot of time and effort preparing the materials for their speeches. But you know, this is an information era. In fact, lots of information is available easily to everyone. So I think what's most important is not to collect as much information as possible, but to screen information and screen in useful information and screen out unimportant information so that you can give your very good views within a limited period of time. In this debate, many members spent a lot of time commenting on the latest news, and some members also spent a lot of time talking about the history of public administration in Hong Kong. And I don't think these members really have a lot of important views that they must put forward in this debate. And so I think we should be prepared to enter the last stage of this debate. On the queue, we have Mr. Yuk-man and Mr. Kwok-hung. So after the two members have spoken, I will see whether our officials wish to respond, and then I will invite members who have moved CSAs to respond. Mr. Yuk-man. Thank you, Chairman. I don't need you to tell me or teach me how to prepare my materials, how to use my time, how to make speeches. And I want to talk about Head 158 THB. In the last round, I was commenting on the delays to the XRL project and the cost overrun. So when the cost overrun issue is debated by this council, I'm sure it's going to take a lot of time. Chairman, I think you would agree that if the matter is put before the council and members want to speak on it, then the debate is going to be a very lengthy one. But we want to know who will have to foot the final bill, who should be held responsible for the delay and the cost overrun. So the expatriate CEO was asked to depart, and then it was said that the cost overrun should be borne by the MTRCL because MTRCL should be held responsible for the delay. But then MTRCL said that when the agreement was signed, the Hong Kong government promised to pay for all the construction costs, and also the delay was mainly caused by geological problems. So MTRCL said that it would not rule out the possibility of going to court against the government. So how come this can happen? Government owns 70% of the MTRCL shares, and the MTRCL is responsible for the construction works, and then the government and the MTRCL are trying to pass the buck to each other. No, this is not irrelevant, Chairman. The Bureau needs to show the responsibility. Anthony Cheung should be held accountable. What's wrong with proposing to cut his salary? How come people are saying that this is irrelevant? This is not irrelevant. This is outrageous. they shouldn't have tried to pass the buck to each other. All right. The government has responsibility to monitor the work of the MTRCL in all respects. There is delay to the MTR or the XRL project, and Hong Kong people are very discontented with the local services provided by the MTRCL. On the 3rd of May 2012, during the morning peak hours, 900 passengers were stranded in the trains for about 2 hours. There was a power suspension, and the passengers had to walk for about 100 meters in the tunnel. So that was one major breakdown of service. And then on another occasion, there was a typhoon, and the East Rail service had to be suspended. I can give you numerous other examples. Chairman, this is not a discussion on public policy. I'm trying to talk about incidents of service breakdown. The government hasn't done its monitoring job well.
In early 2013, there was a service performance arrangement or agreement. Should there be a service disruption of over 8 minutes, or if it's expected it will last for more than 8 minutes, the Transport Department must be informed. And for over 30-minute delay or service disruption, then a fine would be imposed. However, there was 140 disruptions on average, one every 3 days, and one in 2014. Israel has got the greatest problems, and also T-train running Kwok Hung lines had the greatest number of incidents. If the penalty system works, then there won't have been so many problems. According to MTRCL, it's regarded the fines as part of the operating cost, and under the adjustable fare mechanism, they can increase fares even though they are making tens of billions of dollars per year. In 2013, it spent $1 trillion in merging the train control centers in Campton and other depots into one super center, and they have continued to use the more than decade-old computers. They've just replaced the second-hand components. When state-made trains were introduced to Hong Kong, there were complaints that the craftsmanship was very bad, and then the signaling system was defective during trial run, and trains ran past stops without stopping, and the platforms, and when a train stopped, it could not match with the platform screen door. Well, I can continue with a long list of defects, but because of time constraint, I have to turn to other things. And last year, it was found that the MTRCL has overestimated its patronage or its capacity by over 40%. Westrail and Kwok Hung is really up to 100% of its capacity. It has underestimated the state of situation. It's been misleading the government and the community. I don't know what's the motive behind that. Well, a number of facts are here. There can be numerous more. I think the MTRCL management has forgotten that it is an enterprise set up to serve the public. It has placed its profitability over that of the interests of Hong Kong. It is suppressing, it's cutting corners in order to lower its operating costs. On the one hand, it is expanding its network. On the other hand, it is not improving its service quality. The government is the majority shareholder of the corporation, only 70% of its shares. However, it's never reminded the corporation of its responsibilities. It's helping the corporation to bully residents. As a result, its employees were not able to deal with a stray dog found in its track properly, not to mention mainlanders running around with their trolleys and eating in train compartments and shouting and yelling inside train compartments. The government has not pressed its management, senior management, to improve its corporate governance. Stephen Yiu-chung has been seriously derelict in his duty. In fact, to cut his pay is already minor. He should have been sacked long ago. And because of the fair adjustment mechanism, the EXCO has turned a blind eye to the poor service quality of the corporation. Even though it has got huge profits every year, it is allowed to have fare hikes. And in 2014, when Anthony Zhang explained in a TV program the outcome of talks with the corporation, he said that although the government is a majority shareholder of the corporation, but under company's law and also listing rules, the interests of the majority shareholder must not override that of minority shareholders. And if fares could not be increased, then the interests of minority shareholders would be jeopardized. That's the reason why we opposed privatization of MTLCL. He said that the minority shareholders' interests must not be jeopardized, although I own 70% of the shares. When corporate shareholders or when minority shareholders' interest is more important than the members of the public, then all members in Hong Kong are shortchanged. The railways were built using public money. The senior management were well paid, and Wadler received over $21 million when he left. And as a result of the project slippage of XL, we had to spend more, $20 billion more, and yet he received $21 million when he left. All right, if you want to make amends to rectify the mistake of privatization, then you should reverse the situation. You should buy back MTLCL so that it can be a government-owned company once again. And then those tunnels, it makes people so angry. People have criticized the arrangement of the 3 tunnels. Western Harbour Crossing charges such high tolls that it is underutilized, and the 2 other tunnels are very congested. The government has not done anything about this, and it was meant to be a piece of infrastructure that could benefit the community. However, it is entirely underutilized. In 2007, after spending so much money on consultancy, it is proposed that tunnel tolls for Hong Kong Tunnel should be increased, and for the Eastern Harbour Crossing, the tolls be reduced. However, because people know that the Eastern Harbour Crossing is very congested, they would rather use the Hong Kong Tunnel, and they don't want to spend more time to make a day tour to the Eastern Harbour Crossing. So even if you increase the tolls for Hong Kong Harbour Crossing and lower the tolls for Eastern Harbour Crossing, it is still useless. Anthony Zhang said that he hoped that by using this approach, 4,000 to 5,000 cars can be diverted to Eastern Harbour Crossing. However, the daily patronage is already 72,000 per day. 72,000 trips per day. And if more traffic is diverted to EHX, then it would be almost saturated, and therefore there is no consensus on this matter. The government is totally helpless when faced with the problems of the 3 tunnels. It has refused to buy back WHC so that we can settle the problem once and for all. In February, WHC proposed tunnel changes. Private cars, taxis, another $5 increase, and for taxis and light goods vehicles, $60. So once again, the government was helpless, and it was also helpless when faced with the Tate Cairns Tunnel, and there has been a tunnel increase, a toll increase of $3 to $5. So for a taxi is $40, and the average rate of increase 11.9%. So these tunnel companies would want to maximize their profits by increasing tunnel tolls. What has the government done? What has the THB done? Shouldn't the secretary be sacked? Failing that, shouldn't his pay be cut? Now we only talk about a part of the policy areas of the THB and how they failed in their duties. There is no need for us to filibuster. Well, in this council, with the exception of motion debates and in panels, where can we find the opportunity to comment on these things? Occasions like this are most suitable for such discussions, and yet you have limited our speaking time, and you lectured us on how we should speak. I think this is an insult. Please make good use of your speaking time. At least I am not doing what you said. For this government, we have little expectations. The so-called leaders or senior management of the government, they don't really read wide enough. They are stupid, and they are evil and stupid, and there is nothing we can do about them because they are the pro-establishment members here. So this council is useless. The only function it can serve is to allow us to air our grievances, for ordinary members of the public to air their discontent about the government. All right, in the conclusion stage, if I get my turn, I will speak. If not, I have no choice. Well, I can continue with my speeches in the 4th and 5th and 6th rounds. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, I think you know that there is this punishment in imperial court when ministers, officials said things not pleasing to the ears of the king or the emperor. Then the eunuchs can then beat the officials up. But I don't think this is a good idea. I am not talking about you. I'm not. Of course, we will not whip you, Mr. Grexel. I would like to say this to John Zhang. I want you to relay this message for you. Because he's always not here, I don't know where I can talk about this. In Head 7, Property and Investment, Head 7 of our draft estimates, there is a subhead 060 to amend 2014-15 and 2015-16 draft estimates. From the revised budget is 9.3 billion, and the original estimate was 4.7 billion. No, this is really from the draft estimates on expenditure. What is the head 7 property investment? But it is not for this round. I know, but I don't know where to place it because it's about finances. please listen to me first, and you can correct me afterwards. And you can ask another government official to enlighten me, because I really don't know. Mr. Kwok-hung, have you have no more comments to make on all the proposals of this round of debates and on the 15 heads? No? Then you should have better spend your time on these proposals. All right, calm, keep calm. You just tell me where I can talk about this. All right, I can do research on this afterwards. All right, subhead 60. I want to comment on this. I don't know which part it belongs to. Now, if you have any comments on the 15 heads in this session and also the amendments, you can speak on them now. All right, I really want to comment on subhead 60. Please tell us later where I can make a speech on that later. Professor Anthony Chung is an academic. He was once the head of a tertiary institution. And people say, long hair, you should not scold government officials or the head of a tertiary institution.
So I'm giving him credit. All right. So in order to do it, well, here's what I'm going to say. All right. Well, despite the fact that he has tried very hard, the troops are tired, and what they can do is that they've heard the songs at night. So there were 6 types of tears and 6 types of sentiments regarding departure with people, and every morning the women would congregate at the bridges to bid farewell to the young people who had to join the troops. Well, Mr. Chairman, I think the first problem that he has to deal with is about Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people. Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people was an initiative from the THB. I would have thought that it should have come from the Development Bureau. Anyway, as to the division of labor between them, it's none of my business. But then when you see, well, many years ago, C.H. Tong said that, well, the 85,000 units target, all right, well, as soon as we are not talking about that, it's no longer there. Why are you interrupting, Mr. Chairman? Because I'm making this as an analogy. Well, you have to comment on this year's budget, all right, for the Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people. If you're not able to implement it, and if the CE is not saying that at all, then at least Anthony Chung should have reminded him. So it's like what C.H. Tong did. So I'm asking you, what is happening to Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people? All right, at least you should have said that so long as I'm not talking about that, it's no longer there. So whatever you tell me, I would have taken it to be the truth. All right, this chief executive has said it, and then the chief secretary also said it, and then head 158, the THB, it also mentions Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people, and yet it has disappeared. All right, if Anthony Chung were here, I would have put it to him. That's why the first thing that I'm going to say, in fact, C.Y. Leung already said it. He said that he had instructed the lands departments to come up with lease terms on Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people, so that in due course that would be rolled out. So that's what the CE said. And then his subordinate, that is Secretary for Transport and Housing, Anthony Chung, said that in order to resolve the housing problem that we face that we face in Hong Kong, we have to stabilize the minds of the public. We have to put them at ease. That's why we will have to resolve their housing needs. That's why the government emphasizes that, well, there is no question of the government withdrawing from its stance on Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people. And yet it has disappeared. So should I have asked him to be accountable for that? All right. He made firm commitments about that, and yet nothing has come about. So it's not just a problem of the poor people, because even the rich would have been trapped, because apparently we would have thought that the sites would only be used for Hong Kong people and the properties would only be sold to Hong Kong people. And now that's not the case. So if you tell a lie, then you will have to pay a price for it. And then what next? What did he say then? He said that it has only applied to the residential units in Kai Tak. In other words, it has died a stillbirth. So just on this issue, should Anthony Cheung receive a pay cut? So it's a catalogue of blunders. All right, Hong Kong property for Hong Kong people gone already. All right, I take it of your advice, so I'll just say a few words on everything. I'm not elaborating on anything at all. Now, turning to Head 158, Government Secretariat, Transport and Housing Bureau. All right, turning to the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge. This is really shocking. All right, for the submersion tube project, there is no way that it can connect with the other side. All right, if you ask your secretary to give me a call and ask me to come and talk about the budget, and then the secretary tells you tomorrow that she is not able to connect with me, then there is no date that can be set for this meeting between Longhair and you. So, of course, being you would have given me a call to find out what's happening. So what is here? What is said here? There is no explanation whatsoever. Okay? The explanation is, is stating the obvious. Okay? Well, someone else explained that for him. So the Guangdong Province NPC delegate said that because of the seabed is subject to tidal flow and also the sedimentation, and originally it was scheduled that the 15th tube could be immersed, but then because of the tidal flow and also because of the change in the seabed, well, they spent 3 months and still were not able to find out the reason, and they've already resorted to supercomputers to do the calculation. All right, if this guy had been working as an employee outside, then would he have been able to hang on to his job? All right, it takes someone else to do the explanation for him, and our bureau director did not bother to explain that to us. So we are just being concerned about what's happening on our motherland. So for the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge, what's the problem? Because of the slippage, the effectiveness might be lost. So even the initial estimate of the benefit could be gone. Because if you look at the design of the bridge itself, it was designed at the time when the transport network on the mainland was not good. That's why it was thought that the bridge would be able to play some role. But now, with the XRL commissioning, and all the roads are no longer necessary. And still, we're working on it. We're still building the bridge. Another problem is the THB has the responsibility, because they would like to introduce the self-drive scheme so that mainland vehicles can come into Hong Kong, and yet it hasn't worked out politically, because all right, it's politics. you have to consult. As bureau director, you have to be a good fighter before you can come out to sort things out. As another director said, all right, just a little traffic congestion is not a problem at all, and yet Anthony Cheung has done nothing. He has not done it at all. So nothing has come about. According to the forecast, by 2020, the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge, in terms of daily trips, that would be between 15,300 and 22,300, and then in terms of the passenger load, it would be between 90,000 to 110,000. But then the bridge would be able to accommodate some 200,000 trips. In other words, the capacity is for some 200,000. In other words, it's a white elephant. So the flow is in excess of the actual load. All right. Originally, you thought that many mainland drivers would like to come to Hong Kong to travel, and yet it has not worked out. And then some loyalists said that we should not allow people to come in, and we should have this bridgehead economy there. I haven't seen people that crazy before. All right, initially you said that you should allow more people in, and now you're saying that we should start a bridgehead economy there so that people can be stopped there and they don't have to come in. All right, we will have to pay for 50% for the cost. So it's almost like doing this for someone else. So, Chairman, can you make a judgment on this? So all the policies. So it's just a big mess. It's a mismatch of everything. So looking at such documents, I think you can see how helpless Hong Kong people feel, because it's like inbreeding. So all the consortiums are serving their own interests. So these are that's why we have this sorry state of affairs. And if the bureau director had been an intellectual, then he should have said what is right and what is wrong. And then even if he might be stopped, he should try to come forward to tell us the truth. All right, again, we have seen cost overrun for the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge, and just the study cost had exceeded the original estimate, and it could cost us anything up to $100 billion. All right, even if there is a discount of 15%, that would have cost us $85 billion. All right, I've been asking C.Y. Leung to have mercy on us, so that he can have mercy on the elders. And I've been asking him to do this year after year. I'm not going to refer to the Universal Retirement Protection Package. So, in all fairness, I think this is money gone down the drains. So this is one problem. And the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge is a total fiasco. And then that also shows us the truth for the development in Lantau. Lantau is like a sheep, a sacrificial goat. So I think there is also a lot of bickering between the different CY fans. So we are doing something which is not really needed, and to a very large extent, there would be we are actually building something that we don't need. It's a complete waste, and yet the bureau director has no idea as to what is happening. So let's set aside the cost overruns. I think there have been so many projects that have seen cost overruns, but then what's the logic behind this? So it's like Raymond Wong just said about the tunnel logic. All right, without roads, then we would not have houses and residential units. That's why when we criticize the government, we talk about the overall situation. All right, Anthony Cheung, sorry, Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, can you tell us? You said that in the budget, certain parts, subhead 60, which you are not able to identify or locate them. So can you tell us the head? Which head? Sorry, I don't want to waste members' time. I'll talk to you later. But then please locate it. Which head and which subhead? Now I got it. Head 7, property and investment. Subhead 60. Subhead 60. So I'll ask the secretary to check it out and then I'll inform you. Thank you. Members who have moved the amendments, before I invite them to speak, of any official who would like to speak? No? Mr. Raymond Chan? All right, we are in the concluding stage. Then I'd like to invoke ROP 17.3 to have a quorum count.
阿梁議員，你有冇檢？
Mr. Leung, can you check the smallest subhead is 21. We can't find subhead 60.
呢個
係咩嚟㗎？嗯？啊？ 887頁，嗰個都係7頁。 陈志全议员。
Mr. Ray Chen. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, a moment ago you coached or you instructed members as to how they should make their speeches, and you said it wasn't difficult to gather the information. I stepped out and I missed my chance, and I don't think it's fair. I hope that you will show me how I should sift my information. I've submitted 31 amendments, 39 DSD, 42 EMSD, 60 highways, 82 buildings department, 137 ENB, 138 DEVB, land planning, 158 THB, transport, 159 development planning, 186 TD. I spoke on 3 occasions. The first one referring to the overruns at the railway. I held Mr. Chung accountable. The second chance I spoke, I talked about the buildings department. Now, this is the last time I'm going to speak. How do you think I should sift through all the amendments in my hand, the ENB, the DSD, EMSD? I still haven't got a chance to talk about the SDEV and also the THB, the secretary, the undersecretary, and the political assistant. In the THB, other than Mr. Anthony Chung, we have the undersecretary, Mr. Yao Sing-mu. Now, when it comes to the political assistant, I don't think everybody knows who they are.
And I have moved an amendment to cut her pay. I know this lady. This lady is Miss Wan Shan. She sometimes comes to lobby for support. She was present at a briefing on the 3RS, and she spoke as if she were one of the participants at the briefing, and then she said that she was the political assistant of the THB, and there was a lot of surprise among the participants. Many people criticized the 3RS, and she spoke as if she were one of the participants. That was not proper. That was not appropriate. And then Paul Chan. In fact, I can speak for 2 rounds on Paul Chan. And who is the Undersecretary for Development? And he is Ma Xiu-chung. I believe half of the members can remember who the Undersecretary is. But then who is the political assistant in the Bureau? I'm a member of the Development Bureau. Many Pan-Democrats are members of the Development Panel. Do you know who the PA of the Development Bureau is? Now, in fact, we have been having a lot of arguments with the Development Bureau, and the PA has never appeared. And there was Ho Kin Chong. He used to be my classmate in university. He appeared from time to time. And then the new PA, who is he? Feng Yinglun. There's no need to Google. I'll tell you. Feng Yinglun. So it can be seen how well our members know the undersecretary and the political assistant. Now, these are political appointees. They are expected to communicate with LegCo members, but maybe they've only communicated with the pro-establishment members. And all they need to do is to secure the 40 votes from the pro-government members. So I think their salaries should be cut. Last year, at the Finance Committee, when we all went out, there was someone who said something, and he said something for for about 10 seconds, and then the matter was put to the vote, and that person, that male, was Ma Yiu-chung, the Undersecretary for Development. So, Chairman, I really don't know how I can screen and select what to say. The SD, SD. I'm not trying to comment on current affairs or the latest news. Mr. Martin Liu is not present. He said that we moved amendments to cut the expenses of the Environment Bureau and the EPD. And he said that, in fact, we shouldn't have done that because we all attach great importance to environmental protection. And I said that we should not approve projects because they contained the words green or environmental protection. In fact, very often the EPD and the Environment Bureau may do things which do not protect the environment. And now I would like to talk about EIAs. EIAs have become the government's rubber stamps. And so I want to cut the funding under Head 44 EPD. Chairman, now EIAs can greatly influence Hong Kong's development. Concerning Long Mei, the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge, the 3RS, they are all related very closely to EIAs. The EIA ordinance came into being in 1998. The purpose was to implement the EIA and environmental permit mechanism to minimize and control the adverse impact of designated projects on the environment. These are bridges, port, sewage treatment, major demolition works. If the area exceeds 20 hectares of the population exceeds 100,000, then there is a need to first engage a consultant to carry out an EIA, and then there has to be public consultation, and then the ACE's advice is sought, and finally the government decides whether to issue an environmental permit. So water quality, air quality, noise, visual impact, heritage, health, and other parameters are taken into account in assessing the impact of designated projects on the environment. But we've discovered that many of the EIA reports are based on unreasonable assumptions, and the content is inadequate. But then such EIA reports are accepted by the government. So EIAs have become rubber stamps of government white elephant projects. I'll use the 3RS as an example. Earlier on, the AA, Airport Authority, provided an EIA report to the EPD on the 3RS. During the public consultation stage, many people gave adverse comments about the EIA report. It was said that the EIA was not properly done, and there was not enough assessment of the impact on the dolphins and on other aspects. And they said that the EIA was substandard, and they said that the EIA should be withdrawn. And some green groups provided lots of submissions to support the withdrawal of the 3RS project. And many were concerned about the impact on the habitat of Chinese white dolphins. And the EIA report said that dredging would not be carried out in the reclamation works, so that the quality of the sand in the pit would be maintained. And for a sanctuary, And there would be a sanctuary, and there would be 2,400 hectares of new marine park linking to existing marine parks. So other mitigation measures are also proposed. For example, there will not be boring and piling works during certain seasons. And also there will be Chinese white dolphin protection zones, and the vessels plying between Hong Kong and Zhuhai will also have to use alternative routes. But then the EIA report, in fact, is grossly inadequate. It lacks common sense concerning the marine park area. In fact, this is the area where Chinese white dolphins live. So, in fact, the EIA report hasn't proposed any extra area for extra water space for Chinese white dolphins. So there is no compensatory arrangement whatsoever. But then the EIA says that the waters will be zoned water or protection areas for the dolphins. In fact, concerning coastal protection areas, only the government can designate such areas. So they are proposing development first and conservation later. So there's no need to get funding from us for the 3RS. AA has its way of financing, and so works on the 3RS will start in 2013, but then the marine parks won't be completed till 2023. So what's going to happen to the dolphins in the 7-year period? They should be wise enough to move away from this area, and then they should be smart enough to come back when the works have been completed. And I believe many Chinese white dolphins will have died by 2023. And then the habitat will be or will have been greatly disturbed, and Chinese white dolphins may not come back again. Before the Chek-lap Kok airport was built, the Chinese white dolphins had outlived in the Chi-chuen area, also the Pearl River estuary, and concerning vessels to Macau, to the Pearl River Delta, there weren't too many of them. But then with the completion of the Chek-lap Kok airport, the width of the water channels became smaller, and there have been more and more river vessels or river trade vessels. The gambling industry has been developing very rapidly in Macau, so we've seen more and more express vessel service between Hong Kong and Macau. In fact, I've got a lot of figures. The EIA report only takes into account the area of sea lost because of the 3RS, and they are proposing the so-called compensatory arrangements. But in fact, Chinese white dolphins will lose their habitat. The AA has grossly underestimated the impact of the 3RS on dolphins, and the AA has neglected factors like the number of vessel movements. So the AA's EIA report contains very serious mistakes and must not be approved. So the AA has committed these mistakes in its EIA, and also the 3RS will bring a lot of noise and air pollution problems and water pollution problems. And there are many experts who oppose the views expressed in the EIA report, but then the EPD decided to approve the EIA report. So you can see that the EPD is only knows how to support the white elephant projects. I know that some people may take action in court, but EPD doesn't really serve environmental protection causes. It, in fact, its primary duty is to defend the government's decisions. Thank you. Mr. Ho. Mr. Chen Chi-chuen mentioned the Undersecretary for Development, and Mr. Chen Chi-chuen said that nobody knew him, but in fact he was in the chamber, and the president didn't know who he was, and the president asked him what his name was. Chairman, it's really disappointing. Even if the quorum bell is rung, about 35 members will come back to the chamber. But even if we ring the bell indefinitely, we won't be able to get any response from the officials. They do not give any response. And I feel sorry for Mr. So. He is here, but he is dumbfounded, so to speak. I know that in fact outside this chamber you do have discussions with members. Is it really difficult for officials to give us some response?
According to information received, the Secretary for the Civil Service should attend this session of the debate, and yesterday Mr. Tang Kwok-pin was present, but our remarks had nothing to do with his portfolio, whether it be transport, housing, the environment, improvement of the landfills and clean production partnership scheme, and yet he was here yesterday. I observed very carefully whether Mr. Tang was jotting any notes. I didn't see him doing any of the kind. So when I spoke yesterday, I said, well, it's okay for government officials to be here on a roster, but please use electronic means to communicate with the relevant secretaries, and please ask them to give you some replies so that before the end of this session, he can represent the administration and make a reply. No matter whether they agree with our questionings or challenges here, it is the government's duty to be accountable. All right, they send some irrelevant officials to attend our debates, and there is no coordination, no one jot down our comments, and there is no one to reply. All right, Secretary, how much do you receive in salary every year, including the official sitting next to you? This is entire waste of public money. If you're here for serving the public, of course it is worth it. And yet you're here, you dare not do other things. Otherwise, if you are captured by the media to be doing some other things, you'll be criticized. I won't blame the secretary who is here before, because it is for your senior officials, i.e. the CS4A and the CE, to make such arrangements. I think they have the duty to tell you and your colleagues to make replies. The secretaries should work together and be accountable to the public. But this is not happening. I believe this is not out of the personal choice of secretaries here. I think it is the choice of your senior and your supervisor. Well, even if you choose not to make any reply, Shun, Carrie Lam, and Siwa Leung ask these officials to reply. They should discharge their duties under the Basic Law and be accountable to the legislature. But this is not happening at all. All right, we've asked so many questions, and they're allowing Hong Kong people to be talk shop. All right, government officials are there to throw a temper tantrum when meeting a member of the public. A certain official just said he wanted to say and walk away afterwards. All right, this is the strategy adopted by this government. You may be able to evade the scrutiny of the council for the time being, but the public is discerning. They can see in matters such as constitutional reform and in specific matters that the administration is evading the scrutiny of the council. This 698 vote CE manages its team in this way. Now, even if you fool the public into believing that millions of voters will be able to vote for him, and if he gets re-elected, he will just adopt the same style. If you are serious about being accountable, you should discharge your duties even if you were returned by 689 votes. If you don't want to be accountable, I don't believe that you will behave better even if we have millions of voters voting for you. All right, I'd like to talk about the Environment Bureau. The Environment Bureau has bypassed LegCo and bundled two items of expenditure into the appropriation bill without any discussion and questioning by the council. The Labour Party wants to provide an opportunity for members to ask questions, and it is our wishful thinking that the administration would at least make a reply. Unfortunately, we have done research, we have moved amendments, we have raised specific issues in relation to the two expenditure items, but we don't get any response from the administration. Mr. Wong Kam-sing is not on the attendance list today, yet he was present for a while. But I'm speaking into the air. Mr. Wong, have you jotted down some notes while you listened to our speeches so that the secretary who remains behind can at least make a reply? If not, when can we get a reply from you, Secretary for the Environment? Chairman, I rarely ask for head count, but we have only 7 members, including myself here. I really want to call for head count. Please invoke ROP 17.3 to ask members to come back, even if we can't ask government officials to come back.
Sau-lan 議員，請你繼續發言。
Mr. To, you may continue. Well, Chairman, I'd like to ask the pro-establishment lawmakers not to leave again, because once you leave, I'll ask for a quorum count again. Please remain silent. Members, please keep quiet. Chairman, don't chase them out, because when I call for a quorum count, I'd like them to come back to sit down. Other than criticizing the officials for not responding, I'm also criticizing members for not asking questions, because the way the administration is doing or going about this business, it is trying to circumvent the Finance Committee. So this is a forum for them to ask questions, and yet there was no question whatsoever. So with regard to the arrangements, and also just now, can you see the proceedings are being broadcast live, and yet our pro-establishment lawmakers, what kind of quality have they displayed? Is this a wet market? All right, they were trying to scold people while they were walking out. All right, you've been criticizing people for staging this filibustering, but then I am not trying to stage a filibustering here. I'm giving you some information so that lawmakers can discharge their duty to monitor the government's performance. Even if they try to bypass this council, we will still be giving you this forum to ask questions. And still, we have seen that there are so many rubber stamps here. That's why we are conniving at whatever the administration is doing, so they do not have to come here to explain things to us, because we have 2/3 of lawmakers here who would just allow them to do whatever they want. And then for those of us who try to ask questions and they just display such a despicable attitude, what kind of council is this? Of course, most of them are from the functional constituency. Just now, I heard this lawmaker from the insurance sector. He only got 154 votes, and he scolded the most loudly. Does it mean that you can just behave like that? So you are actually a disgrace for not just yourself, but also for this council. And just now, Raymond Chan referred to the Director for Environmental Protection for being very unprofessional. In fact, under the political appointment system, the EPD was merged, and therefore we only have the ENB, and the Permanent Secretary automatically became the Director for Environmental Protection, and the PS is an AO, and very often AOs would think that they are very smart, and therefore they can be posted to a new post once every 3 years. And for the director here, she has been in her post for more than 3 years, but then she'll be retiring soon in the middle of the year. That's why we have suggested that the administration should again segregate the bureau from the department, and the professional post should not have taken up by an administrative officer. The post should be filled by someone from the professional grade. So, well, for the Director of Health, can the director be from a general grade? Definitely the post has to be filled by a medical doctor. So for the EPD, how come we are allowing a general grade individual to fill the post, which is so professional? In the past, there was a former director, who rejected the EIA project, and since then, no professional from the department was allowed to take up the post, and ever since then, we have had AOs filling the post. But then if you look at the EIA with regard to the mitigation measures on on most projects, they are not able to win over the professionals. So I think the post should be segregated from the bureau. And I've also noticed that even some loyalist members have said that you should not slash his pay, because after you have cut his pay, then she will not be able to do her job. That's why we should segregate the post so that we can pay one more individual who is a professional, and then he can be the Director for Environmental Protection. I understand that Mr. Martin Niels One suggested that we should not slash her pay, so I hope that he would agree to support our proposal. Also, I'd like to talk about the XRL. Both yesterday and today, many members talk about the cost overrun by the XRL. In fact, I spent 10 minutes on that, and late last night I received a call from a friend. He's from the construction sector, and according to what he said, and according to what he knew, 6 months ago, the contractor made an assessment with regard to the construction cost. It already reached some $120 billion. It's not like what was reported yesterday in the news that it would reach $90 billion. I couldn't confirm it. I can only ask questions here. Officials, when are you going to give us replies? Administration, when are you going to give us a reply? And what about the questions that have been raised both yesterday and today? A lot of valid questions have been asked both yesterday and today. So are you going to bury your head in the sand again, and then only when you can no longer cover up, then you would get or you would apply for funding of $30 billion time and again? I won't be surprised, because we do have so many rubber stamps here, and they would not ask questions, they would not query, and they would just press the button to approve the funding. So they would just cause disgrace to Hong Kong people. I'll adjourn the meeting now, and we'll resume at 9 tomorrow.